Hi everybody and welcome back to SCZ Live. I am Shanae. Well, earlier today you got to see some of our larger animals here at the zoo. Today we're going to go a little bit smaller. We're going to go native and we're going to go venomous to celebrate World Snake Day. Now I'm here today with David, one of our zookeepers that is who works with our amphibians and reptiles in the ectotherm department.
Hello.
And David and I were just talking about our love for native snakes.
That is right. This is our native rattlesnake room over in the prairie section. You guys might know it, kind of that little boxy area by the otters and the waterfowl. And back here we've got some of our native Kansas rattlesnakes and some Arizona rattlesnakes as well. But I wanted to talk at first about a pit viper that you guys have probably seen before. It's the Copperhead. This is the eastern Copperhead. They are found all throughout the eastern half of the state. And they will eat just about anything you could possibly imagine. Small frogs, other snakes, lizards. I've actually found one of these guys in the wild down in the southern part of the eastern portion of the state eating a brown snake off the road. It was a long-term roadkill animal, and it just kind of dragged it off to the side. One thing that's they're very famous for is musking, which is their defense mechanism. It's a very foul odor they use to kind of scare off larger animals.
And it is foul.
It is terrible. As a matter of fact, some of the roads I've been cruising for to try to find them, if I just put the windows down and I smell it, I know copperheads are there. People have called it almost like a rotten cucumber smell. I'd almost say it's more like cat urine, in all honesty, but it is very potent and it sticks to your clothes, I will tell you that much. But right now he's nice and calm and relaxed, so he's not going to do anything like that. Even though he is not a rattlesnake himself, the copperheads are a very close relative of the rattlesnake, and they will actually rattle their tail even without the rattle as kind of like a mimic almost. Some of the other non-venomous snakes will do that too, like king snakes and sometimes rat snakes. So just because a snake rattles their tail doesn't mean they're venomous. It's a very common defense mechanism that's kind of spread throughout the different types of snakes.
And the copperhead is, I think, just spectacularly beautiful with its mottled coloring on it.
Absolutely. It's a great camouflage. They're just meant to kind of use that patterning to kind of blend into kind of the fallen leaf litter. They do want to be around forested areas. They're not going to be found in prairies, really. You're generally going to find them around a temperate forest and around a water system. They definitely are found around water systems. That's where I find them the most often.
Now, if someone is to find a copperhead or any native venomous snake, or any snake for that matter, what is the best way they can stay safe?
Just leave it alone, because the snakes really don't want to be around you to begin with. Even though they are venomous and they have a defense mechanism, they don't want to have to use that, because that's what they use to get their prey items. If they use that on you, they've just lost the ability that day to capture a prey item. It's not meant to be strictly for defense. And if it's a snake that you don't think is venomous, but you're not sure, it's best just to leave it alone because you don't know what it is. It's better for you and the snake to just walk away. And the snake itself is just going to slither away because it's not going to chase you. They don't want to have to come after you.
Now, the copperhead is just one of our native snakes.
That's correct.
I know there's a couple others in here that you'd like.
Let's go down to her first. This is our female timber rattlesnake. These guys are also found in kind of the eastern portion of the state. Right now because she is developing some ova. They are not going to be fertile babies, unfortunately. She is just developing them as part of the seasonal cycling. So these guys are one of my favorite snakes personally. They live in the same sort of areas as the copperhead, that kind of temperate foresty area. And we've gone cruising for them down around Sedan, actually. Now this is a true rattlesnake. It does actually have a rattle. Now the way the rattle works is that they will actually add another segment to that every time they shed. And some people think you can actually age them by that rattle, but that's not true. They can shed multiple times per year, which means that, depending on the availability of food, whether or not that animal is injured and it's just shedding to kind of repair the skin, they might add multiple buttons a year. So it's not a very reliable way, but they do add on to that so they can rattle as that defense mechanism because, rattlesnakes, they really don't want to be moving. They want to alert you to their presence, and then they want you to walk away, basically.
Now, David,
yes.
we often have people say, if the eye looks like a fang, it's venomous. My comment is always, if you're that close, you're too close anyway.
That is correct.
But it really doesn't hold as true as people think it does either.
It does not. Snakes of all different types, venomous or not, rear-fanged or front-fanged, can have that. That's more indicative of the lifestyle. So found diurnally, so it might have a little bit of. This rattlesnake here is definitely a nocturnal animal, so it's going to have that kind of like cat-like kind of slit for a pupil.
So you mentioned nocturnal, then are rattlesnakes most active at night?
They're most active during the nighttime or during some of the warmer seasons, maybe more. Sorry, I said that wrong. They're more likely to be at night during the warmer seasons, and then as the weather kind of becomes more fair, they might be out more at dusk or dawn.
Like us.
Yes, exactly
we
right.
Try to avoid the heat of the day.
Exactly. So these guys are both pit vipers, and they are called that because of at the front of the mouth that they use to pick up on heat signatures of the organisms and the surroundings around them. So they'll use that to kind of pick up on the infrared signature when there's a prey item nearby. You might actually see them on the roads sometimes with their head kind of like pointed upwards, and I believe that's so they can use that pit to kind of tell what's around them.
Well, it's definitely a beautiful snake, and
Gorgeous.
I think we have one other over here.
Sure.
To me, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, this is the Southwestern Speckled Rattlesnake. We actually have a male and a female together right now. We're trying to breed these guys in the future. These guys are found in parts of Nevada, but mostly in Southern California, in sort of the like granite, rocky outcroppings, which their skin is just meant to mimic. It's beautiful. We actually do have one on display right now over in the main amphibian and reptile building, our brand new venomous wing. But these guys aren't just white and black speckled. They can come in all sorts of colors, including like red and black. Some of them are almost blue, as a matter of fact.
Wow. That makes it sometimes really hard to identify when they're so diverse.
Exactly. But it all comes down to just the habitat they come from and what they've sort of been selected for in that area. And she's kind of cruising around. They just got fed recently, so now they're all used to. Someone's by the glass. Are they gonna give me a rodent right now?
And what would we feed them?
These guys get hopper mice to small adult mice. Now, and unlike us, these rattlesnakes do not need to eat that often. I only feed these guys maybe once every 4 to 5 weeks. This is not an animal that's moving very often. It's going to find one very comfortable spot and it's just going to sit there. And then they don't really burn off a lot of energy through exercise like a human would. Instead, they're burning off a lot of that excess energy and fat by basking. So they'll bask, they'll burn through that energy, which will help them move around more often. And then during the winter time, because they hibernate, they'll also use some of that energy to kind of keep themselves going throughout because they can't really be eating because it's just going to rot in their stomach due to the low temperatures.
So I think that's an important aspect, that they just don't need to eat that much because they're not that active.
That's right, and we want to make sure we keep our snakes nice and healthy. So we're going to feed them the best way, which is very little.
And for snakes, as I understand it, really they don't move around very much. So sometimes when you see a snake maybe in a smaller area, that snake is completely happy in that area because this is what snakes do most of the time.
Yes, so a happy snake is a snake that's not moving for the most part. There's actually one study I read. Now, this particular study was about a python, but that actually sat in the exact same spot in the exact same tree for about 12 months. It did not move whatsoever. So if we see snakes in small enclosures, that's because their needs are being met and they just don't want to move for the most part.
Yep, not all animals are the same. So we always have to remember that here at Sedgwick County Zoo, we are always looking for the best way to care for animals. And sometimes it's in ways that seem unique.
Yep, that's correct.
Gosh, these two are just so beautiful as they move around.
Yes, and actually the lighter one that's on top is the female, and the male is the one that has more of a darker coloration to them. And because of that variation, it's very useful in kind of telling them apart, like who's who.
Now, I noticed, David, that on our enclosures here, we have our tags.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about these particular tags and what they mean.
Sure. So, because venomous snakes, they do have a potentially dangerous bite, we want to make sure that we have everything about that situation covered. So we keep these tags so that if something would happen, we can grab that tag and say, this is the snake that bit somebody, this is the antivenom we need, and we're going to make sure we get it. Exactly. that being said, we hope we never have to
That's
use
right.
it. Yes.
Plan ahead and hope to never have to use it.
Exactly.
Now, I totally forgot about the little tiger rattlesnake down here. Do we have a second?
Absolutely, we do. So
Okay.
these guys are actually one of my favorite snakes. They are kind of a small, semi-montane species. They come in all sorts of different colors. Our male on exhibit's almost a bluish gray. Our female back here is more of the typical coloration. She's got kind of an orange color with like dark red bands to them. And one of the weirdest parts about them is just how small their head is. They've got a big, chunky body and a very small head, so it's kind of hard to feed or tube them because, you know, the head will fit into the tube very easily, or it'll be able to eat a small rodent, but then it's a big body, it's got a power, so they're just sort of a weird-looking snake, but they actually have a similar morphology and natural history to the speckled rattlesnake we just looked at, because they are actually using their coloration as a sort of camouflage around their rocky environments as well. As a matter of fact, my curator took pictures when he collected these guys for the rattlesnake collection here, and their coloration matches the rocks almost perfectly.
Wow, that's great.
Yes, and I should mention, you know, they were collected with permission from the zoo and the state. You know, if you can't just go out and collect snakes.
That is very important. And
Yes.
you do have to have permits to collect not just venomous snakes, but any type of native reptile,
Yes,
correct?
you got to make sure you're following the legal process. You can't just take whatever you feel like. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, David, thank you for helping us celebrate World Snake Day today.
Not a problem.
It was a great day to come out, not only learn about snakes, but learn about some of the beautiful venomous snakes that share our world. As always, thank you for joining us on SCZ Live. If anybody was interested in that snake tubing, which is one of the ways that we can check their bodies and make sure that they're healthy, we do have a past SCZ Live that we did where Michelle and John from A&R tubed one of the snakes, so you can go and see what that's all about. Remember, we do still have a few weeks left of summer school. If you've got a child out there that loves animals and loves nature, go to www.scz.org to the learning section, and you can see all the activities we have coming up for the rest of the summer. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.